a train bound for Barcelona, a city by then in the midst of a revolution of its own. The revolution in Barcelona, to be sure, had not begun with good humor or innocent diversions. It had begun with deadly street battles involving swarms of the city's people fighting against soldiers of the Spanish army. The fighting had taken place in late July during the first few days of the Spanish Civil War. It had left as many as 500 dead and countless more wounded. Yet, somewhat miraculously, when it had ended, in control of the city were the common people of Barcelona, syndicalists and anarchists, the women who kept the working-class neighborhoods running, the community-based militias, rowdy teenage laborers, the local barbers, and factory workers in faded blue overalls. And in the days that followed the violence, even as they buried their dead, the people of Barcelona threw the city into a state of social revolution much like what Vey had witnessed in Paris about 8 weeks before, only more so. They seized the factories, the hotels, shops, and cafes, and then they collectivized them. They spoke to each other now as equals, and they looked each other in the eye as they walked down the Ramblas. There, in the heart of the city, they gathered and sang revolutionary songs, of the sort that George Orwell, when he arrived 4 months after Vey, would find the naivest kind, all about proletarian brotherhood and the wickedness of Mussolini. Everything in the streets of Barcelona in those extraordinary days was, as one young socialist put it, dreamlike, everyone hallucinating with happiness. One spectator speculated that it was like the day of festival in older times. Vey arrived in early August, 3 weeks after the city's liberation. When she arrived, the social revolution was still in full force. Yet, as when she had visited the occupied factories near Paris earlier in the summer, she was struck in Barcelona by the calm and good spirits surrounding her. In her journal, she wrote of stepping out of the train station and strolling along the city's happy streets, the cafes and shops open and serene. Nothing has changed, really, she suggested, except for one little thing. Now the people have the power. But from that exception, much ramified. She wrote that as she scrutinized her surroundings more carefully, noticing, for example, so few police and so many kids with guns, she came to realize that, surface calm notwithstanding, this truly is revolution. Vey had come to Barcelona, however, not to soak up the scene, but rather to fight in the war. She had done so because she saw it not as only a Spanish civil war, but also as a global one. She saw the war as a great scission, splitting all humanity into enemy camps and impassioning partisans the world over with hatreds for newfound nemeses, even among old neighbors. And she saw the war's implications extending across vast overlapping ideological, political, and moral terrains. Vey was far from alone in seeing things so, as more than 40,000 people from beyond Spain left their homes in Ethiopia, the United States, Cuba, Palestine, and many other countries to join in a struggle that they interpreted as their own. In even those parts of the world most distant from Spain, the war worked to accelerate an ideological sorting out already underway, intensifying changes already begun in how people imagined the world's politics and in how they imagined that they themselves could shape and turn those politics. When the war had begun in late July, Vey had been at home in Paris, away from the fighting, and yet nonetheless she had already felt implicated, because, despite my best efforts, I couldn't keep from subjectively participating in this war. In the end, whether she had been right or wrong in Paris to see the war as her own, her choice to engage, as she put it, worked to make it so. By engaging, Vey and all of the thousands of others who went made sure that the war would indeed hold just the sort of global implications that she had sensed were there when she